Good morning, good morning. Thank you for tuning in to Choices Now TV. I'm going to be with you real briefly. A little study here. The last time I made a little short clip, and it was entitled, What You Tune Into, You Turn Into. So I just want to hit that once again, and the reason I'm coming here with this particular topic is we're still having mass shootings. We're still having all type of violent things that are happening throughout our land, throughout our nation. And there are many reasons why things are happening. But this morning, I just want to talk a little bit about the effects of video games. These are from some articles that I had. One article is from 2011, June 28th of 2011, and the other article is from October 25th, 2021. Two different sites, two different doctors, but they did a study, and I thought it was very interesting. And why I chose to talk about this now is the reason being is that a lot of younger people are the ones that are committing these types of crimes, these very serious mass shootings. They're usually below 20, below the age of 20. Now, I have children and I have grandchildren. My children are all over 20. My grandchildren are, of course, are all under the age of 10, 11. And, but they have played video games. And, when my children were coming up, I chose not to let them play certain games. Mortal Kombat was one. It just was a very violent game, and I said, no, we're not going to play that. I have had really a lot of restrictions, did not allow them to play certain things. So even something called Kingdom Hearts is just the content that was in the games. Now, one of my children, when they got older, at a certain age, they went out and bought the games and they played them, and that was great. That was great. So they made a choice to purchase the game and play the games, and I'm truly blessed. I can say that I have great kids. What parent wouldn't say that? Okay, but let me just get right into this. Now I'm going to talk about two different things: the effects of video games on mental health. Okay, that's the first article that I'm going to talk about. Now, in this particular article, it talks about there's evidence that says, and now this is only pertaining to violent video games. So violent video games can lead to an increase in aggression, thoughts, angry feelings, psychological arousal, including increased heart rate and aggressive behavior. Now, if you're noticing these things in your children, we go out. I mean, like I said, back in the day when my kids were younger, I really did not allow them to play certain games, okay? But if you're noticing that there's a change in behavior, that there's a change in just how they're acting, you may want to adjust that time. I know there was one situation just recently. A young man was staying with his grandmother, and she didn't want him to play on the video game or on the telephone or something like that, and he ended up shooting her. He shot her. Come on. It's like it's something that he had to have, and he thought he was going to kill her, but she survived, and she was able to tell the authorities what happened. So this stuff happens from when they're younger, smaller, and then they grow up, and things change in their mind. So when it talks about violent video games, and we look at the type of weapons that are in these games, and then you look back over a period of time of the type of violence that's going on in our streets, the type of weapons that are being used, the AR-15s, the semi-automatics, the 9mm with the large clips. There's a lot of weapons out there that are being used, but these weapons are also in the video games. I know they can't get the weapons out of the video games, but children aren't able to purchase those guns by themselves. something to think about. Also, okay, and that information was taken from psychologicalscience.org. Psychologicalscience.org. That was an article written back in June 28th of 2011. Now, this next article is coming out of coming from webmd.com, October 25th, 2021. Now, this is another take on video games, and it's not talking about violent video games. Of course, it's just talking about video games in particular, or in general, should I say. Now, this Dr. Brennan, is saying that the question was posed, are there benefits of video games? Now, it says that video games can act as a distraction from pain and psychological trauma. Pain and psychological trauma. So a lot of children, they're playing these games and we're wondering why they're spending so much time. There's some pain, there's some trauma, there's something that is taking place in their life. So what happens to replace that pain and that trauma, per this article, per Dr. Brennan, they're trying to cover that up. So they get engrossed in the video games. So there are some benefits because now they're not concentrating on the trauma of their past. So it says here that also video games can help people who are dealing with mental disorders like anxiety, depression, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder or ADHD, as well as PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Now these are, there's some pros and cons to video games. So I'm not saying they're all bad, but it's what type of games. Remember, what you tune into is what you turn into. So what are you tuning into? And this is for not just children, adults. There are grown people that are playing video games, and that's fine. It keeps the mind going, it keeps you young, all that's good, but what are you really spending your time on? We can, during the pandemic, we had a lot of time to do a lot of different things, and some took advantage of it by learning a different skill, a different trade, just saying, hey, life is so hard, so I'm just gonna change some things. I'm gonna make a change. I'm gonna learn a new skill. I'm gonna do something other than sit here and wonder about what happens when we come out of the pandemic. Will we make it? A lot of people died. A lot of people died. A lot of people got the vaccine. A lot of people didn't. And now it's coming back around again. If we tune into the media, if we tune into what the news is saying, we'll stay in fear. We'll always be, consumed by what if something doesn't work out? What if we're gonna get shot? What if we send our kids to school? What if? Come on. What you tune into is what you turn into. So what I want to encourage you to do today is to take some time to tune into something that is positive, something that is going to encourage your heart, encourage your mind so that you can move forward in spite of what's going on around you, or in spite of what's being done. The world is still moving. The rich are still rich. The poor are still poor. There's still struggle. So let's not focus on it. Let's focus on how we can transition out of it and make a change. How we can transition out of it and make a change. You're saying, well, you're talking like you have no problem. No, everyone has problems. Everyone has problems. But how I choose to deal with my problems, how you choose to deal with your problems will make the difference. If you look back at some of my earlier videos, I was going through a really tough time with my mother. She had passed, just dealing with her. It was just, it was a lot. Am I completely over it? No, but I choose to look forward. I choose to do some things different. So I want to encourage you today to let's do some things different. And until next time, this is Choices Now TV. It's been my pleasure.